From a rebel leader to a controversial president, the man who has led Rwanda for nearly 30 years is a complex figure, praised by some as a savior and condemned by others as a dictator. Hello everyone, I am Brigitte Ngola, and today I'm going to talk about Kagame Paul. It is October 23rd in the southern part of Rwanda in a small commune called Rango. On this day, a child named Kagame Paul is born. He grows up in a Tutsi family. His father, Deogratus Rutagambwa, is a respected man, and his mother, Asteria Rutagambwa, is the sister of Rosalie Shikanda, the former queen of Rwanda. Paul thus grows up in a royal Tutsi environment, but later he shows up a different vision. Instead of following the footsteps of monarchy, he decides to choose the path of republic and the path of change. Let's fast forward. It is now 1961 and Paul is just 4 years old when his life takes a dramatic turn. Due to growing persecution against the Tutsi, his family is forced to flee Rwanda. This is during the Rwandan Revolution. The monarchy collapses, the kingdom falls, and violence erupts. The Hutus, with the support of certain local and colonial authorities, begin massacring the Tutsi. The area where Paul's family lives is attacked. Thanks to his aunt, Rosalie Shikanda, the former queen of Rwanda, his family manages to escape. They flee to Uganda, where the family settled in Gahanj in the Toro district, where his father dies a few years later. Left alone with her children, Paul's mother finds support from relatives. Rosalie once again proves to be a pillar in their lives. Another man who plays a crucial role in young Paul's life is Benzish Boniface, a royalist who takes Paul in to ease the burden of the family. From Boniface's home, Paul even visits King Kigali V, the last monarch of Rwanda, then living in exile in Kampala. This little boy, once a refugee, was soon to become a man that history will never forget. Let's pause for a moment. To continue Kagame's story, it is crucial to understand the broad nature in which he grew up. Behind his family exile and the violence they went through, there is a much more deeper conflict between two main ethnic groups, the Hutus being the major community while the Tutsi being the minority. To truly understand what led Paul's family to leave the country, we need to go back to the origin of the tribal war that led the country to tear apart. Rwanda, a small country in East Africa, has long been inhabited by three main ethnic groups, the Hutus, the Tutsi and the Twas, who were the marginalized community. This community lived together for a very long time. They share same languages, same culture, and even same lands. Social differences already existed. The Tutsi, seen as the elite class, they were often cattle herders. The Hutus, mostly farmers, formed the majority of the population. And while the Twas were hunters, gatherers, and remained marginalized. Things took a dark turn. First, the Germans, then the Belgians further divided the society. They introduced ethnic ID cards and favored the Tutsi, where they considered them more intelligent and closer to the Europeans. The Tutsi were given top positions in the administration, in the education sphere, and in the military. This injustice sparked deep resentment towards the Hutus. In 1959, just before independence, the revolution broke out. The Hutu rose up, overthrew the Tutsi monarchy, and seized power. This marked the beginning of a long period of violence.
100 days of death and desperation. Rwanda's dark past still present in the minds of so many.
Thousands of Tutsi were killed, Many fled to other countries like Uganda, Burundi, and Tanzania.
Yoga habwira undi mwana bari kumwe bakundanaga ngo kandi ngo ndafite ibicuro hano ngo ndafite ibicuro hano sere ngo baraza kuntema kikeneye nyibutse umva afitaga.
Amongst them, Paul's family. It is in this climate of hatred, exile, and fear that the future president grew up. And this painful past fueled his determination to change the course of history. After settling in Uganda with his family, Paul continues his secondary education. He attends Tar School in Mbarara and Old Kampala School in the capital of Uganda. This is between 1972 and 1976. But even far from Rwanda, his name echoes back home. He is nicknamed Sinyafo, meaning senior 4. That is, he studied 4 years beyond primary school, but didn't go any further. Paul stands out at school with his vengeful nature, provocative way, and hard stare. He leaves a long-lasting impression, and another names follow him, Kagame, which means the cruel one. Eventually, he is expelled. The future president ends up wandering the streets of Kampala, selling roasted peanuts and boiled eggs to survive. But that's not all. He gets into small tradings and even illegal activities, including illegal currency exchange. And he traveled between Kampala and Nairobi for these operations. A lost boy, rejected by school and doing what he can to survive. But beneath this harsh reality, a fire is building inside him. A fire that was to drive him to take up arms. In 1979, at the age of 22, Kagame Paul's life changes. He is recruited by his childhood friend, Yoweri Museveni, the head of the rebellion of Uganda. But he is far from a soldier. He suffers from a stomach ulcer and has a poor eyesight. Fortunately, another comrade, Fred Rijima, advocates for him. Rather than sending him in the battlefield, he is assigned in the intelligence gathering, a crucial but a less physical demanding task. That is where Kagame begins to shine, working behind the scene. In 1985, Museveni forces succeed in overthrowing the Uganda's president Milton Obote. Museveni takes power and Kagame rises in rank. He becomes the head of the military intelligence, DMI, Directory Military Intelligence. Known for his discipline, discretion, and rigor, Kagame gains respect. At the age of 32, Kagame married Janet Murefu in Kampala, a very distraught but influential woman. She is the daughter of Murefu, a former coffee owner in Kigali. Before marriage, Janet lived in Bujumbura, then worked in Nairobi, in the enterprise P. Batinol, and later settled in Uganda. Together, they have 4 children. In 1990, Kagame is sent in the United States to Fort Leavenworth in Kansas for the military, but after 3 months, tragedy calls him back. Fred Rijima, the RPF Inkotanye leader, has fallen into battle. Kagame immediately cut his training short and returns back in Africa, ready to lead the fight to reclaim Rwanda. In 1987, Paul Kagame co-founds the Rwandan Patriotic Front. With other exiled Rwanda, their goal, return home and reclaim their rights. In 1990, the RPF, made up of Tutsi exiles, decided to launch a battle that would spark Rwanda into a civil war. When Fred Rijima is killed on day 2 of the revolution, Paul Kagame takes over the post. Under his leadership, the RPF takes ground and becomes a major actor in the conflict. Despite peace accord in 1993, tensions remain intact. In 1994, the plan of the president, Juvenal Habyarimana, is shut down, triggering the Tutsi genocide.
A commission of historians appointed by the French government released a detailed report after reading official archives that had remained secret. The report shows that President Mitterrand and his closest advisors knew that a genocide against the Tutsi was being planned by their allies in Rwanda. Despite that knowledge, the president decided to continue supporting them because he believed this was necessary for France's geopolitical position.
Faced with horror, the RPF, led by Kagame, launches its final offensive. By July 1994, they captured Kigali, thereby ending the genocide that led to millions of lives taken over.
This was the prize that the Tutsi rebels most wanted. The Rwandan capital, Kigali, seen recently. After more fierce fighting, rebel forces are now in control of the city. They have reportedly captured several key compounds, including the Ministry of Defense building. From Kigali, the rebels have already launched a sweep south and westwards through Rwanda, taking Butare and pushing back government Hutu troops. In Kigali itself, aid centre workers say thousands of refugees are starting to emerge from hiding.
The victory of the RPF not only marked the end of the genocide, but also the emergence of Paul KAGAME in the political scene. He became Vice President and Ministry of Defense in the National Unity Government. He was regarded as the true strongman of the country. He called on Hutus and Tutsi to both live together and make peace. In reality, this call was largely unsuccessful given the realities of the ground.
There will be no trial into the investigation regarding the attack on former Rwandan President Juvenal Habyarimana's plane that triggered the 1994 Rwandan genocide. French investigative judges issued an order dismissing the case on December 21 due to insufficient evidence. Their ruling follows a request made by the Paris prosecutor's office in October, demanding an end to proceedings against relatives of Rwandan President Paul KAGAME, who were facing a criminal court. They were charged, among others, murder, complicity to commit murder in connection with a terrorist enterprise, and criminal conspiracy to prepare terrorist acts. Habyarimana's widow's lawyer interprets this decision of the French judges as a form of resignation in the face of a political context against which the prosecution has failed to fight it.
Many allies resigned, accusing Kagame of authoritarianism. In March 2000, the Hutus president Bizimungu resigned. Kagame took in as the interim leader. 1 month later, at the age of 42, Kagame was named president of Rwanda, winning the election with over 95% votes. The RPF, his party, play an almost single role. Kagame leads a policy based on justice and reconciliation. He implements economic reform, his challenges to make Rwanda a model of development for countries in the region. Little by little, war turned and Rwanda begins to recover, gaining its prosperity and designs. On the economic plan, Rwanda has experienced significant economic growth under Kagame's presidency, with notable efforts in sectors such as agriculture, tourism, and information technology. Talking about education and health, Kagame has focused on improving education and healthcare in Rwanda with investment in these key areas. About the infrastructural sector, considering efforts has been made to develop the country infrastructure, including road, energy, and communication. About the digitalization, Rwanda has made a significant progress in the digitalization of its economy and administration, aiming to modernize the country and make it more competitive. In 2006, a French judge accused Kagame of being responsible of the death of Juvenal Habyarimana. In response, Kagame broke out diplomatic relations with France. He went further, in accusing France of having arms and supported the perpetrator of the genocide.
As genocide began, Venuste Kayemahe had been working at Kigali's French Rwandan Cultural Centre for years. So he, his wife and 2 of his children sought refuge there, sending the rest of his family to stay with relatives. He says he asked French officials for help, in vain.
We were evacuated to Nairobi by the Belgian army after the French army refused to do so. But my oldest daughter, my mother, my sisters, my brother, my brothers-in-law, my nieces and my nephews were all exterminated.
France didn't want to change its political vision of Rwanda. That's translated into French complicity towards Rwandans accused of participating in the genocide who sought refuge in France.
It was only in 2010 that the findings of an investigation launched in 2007 were made public. This report instead pointed the extremist Hutus military as being responsible for the assassination. Following this, both countries recovered a process of reconciliation. Paris and Kigali reopened their respective embassies. In August 2010, Paul KAGAME was re-elected president of Rwanda by winning 93% of the votes. However, international observers denounced acts of intimidation, crackdown on the opposition and violation of freedom of expression.
Paul KAGAME danced with hundreds of his supporters at Kigali's Amahoro Stadium to celebrate early. Incumbent President Paul KAGAME danced with hundreds of his supporters at Kigali's Amahoro Stadium to celebrate early results, showing a landslide victory in this year's presidential race.
Since the beginning of the rallies, you were with me. You suffered with me, and I say thank you.
The run-up to the campaign was marred by a series of attacks on outspoken critics of the government, and other opposition politicians say they were barred from participating. While the government denies all allegations, Jonathan Elliott of Human Rights Watch is not surprised at KAGAME's victory.
Despite this commitment, many international partners reaffirmed their commitment to cooperate with President KAGAME in the name of development. On August 4, 2017, KAGAME was re-elected this time with 98% votes. In July 2024, he ran a 4th term, securing nearly 99% of the vote.
I can only begin by thanking all Rwandans for putting your trust and confidence in me. It is an honor to serve as your president for another term. To all our guests, friends, and partners from near and far, your presence on this important day is very deeply meaningful and greatly appreciated. The electoral campaign was a period of joy and satisfaction for all of us.
The constitutional amendment adopted in 2015 could allow Paul KAGAME to remain in power until 2034. From a childhood in exile to his role as a Rwandan liberator and later as a controversial president, Paul KAGAME has come to embody the rebuilding of a nation while challenging traditional ideas of democracy. His story is that of a man who, from the battlefield to the presidential palace, has left an undeniable mark on Rwanda's destiny. This was the story of KAGAME Paul. For more story, click the link in the description. See you soon. Cheers!